Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Pacific Horseplayers right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your host, Noah Meagher, joined by my typical co-host, Ryan Anderson. And you're probably wondering where our other co-host is. And unfortunately, he will not be joining us tonight. Jackson Muniz is out for tonight. So unfortunate that we got to do this show without him because it is going to be a doozy for sure. We've got a great show for you tonight. We got something a little special. We're mixing it up. We're going with the Santa Anita Late Pick 5. Just kidding. We do that every week on this show, Pacific Horseplayers. But love to do it, and looking forward to bringing on a special guest that we got. We're calling in from the bench, calling from the bullpen, bringing on a good friend of ours to help us out with the Santa Anita Late Pick 5. So we're going to get into that shortly. But before we do that, let's go through the peripherals. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We've got our listening platforms on there. Scrolling on the bottom of the screen is my email. You can see it right down there. That's my Gmail right there. And then also scrolling on the bottom is our weekly schedule. We've got our intermittent Mondays, as our guy Kyle Roscoe likes to say. And then we got this show Tuesday nights, Betting and Booze Day Wednesday nights, and, of course, Picks and Ponies, as well as great race plays on Thursday nights. So busy weeks for us, especially next week as we've got the Belmont Stakes coming up. A little dead week this week, but everyone is looking forward to that as they kick things off with the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga for yet another year in Saratoga Springs. And then we've got, of course, our regular power picks. You can check those out at our website. We've got at least 822. I don't think that's updated. I think it's more like 850 nowadays and still going strong. So go ahead and check those out and subscribe there. And you can do that at our website right down there, hhhracingpodcast.com. I think that's everything we've got to take care of. Ryan, I am not in my normal setup, but it looks like you definitely are.
Yeah, I'm in my normal setup. If you watch the Saturday show, I was not in my normal setup. I was up in LA, my buddy's place, house sitting for him. So I'm happy to be back in San Diego. This is the preferred city of the two. So yeah, it was good to be here. We're talking Late Pick 5. Hey, how could we go wrong? That being said, anybody from Pizza Port is listening and would like to send me all of the California honeys. This is my favorite beer that exists.
We got Food Rex last week. Maybe we can get some Beer Rex in the chat this week. Before we do that, let's see who's in the show and see who's in the chat. Of course, Katie was the first one here. She was here. She was coming in at around 5:18, so that's about average for her. She said she's ready for the show. Gino now honorary member of the family, and rest in peace, Christophe Clement. Yeah, just a horrible thing just a couple days ago that just hit the world by storm. Not a lot of people really knew that he was sick and kind of kept that private. So unfortunate to hear those news, and we hope the best for the Clement family. On a more positive note, Jim was trying to get here. He was here about an hour early. He was here at 5:24. Couldn't quite beat Katie. Anyways, love that Gino's becoming a staple of the HHH family. Looking forward to another great show. Jim Pilar is a terrific man that I've met before, and he's a great guy. So thanks for joining the show. Terry Frank, another great gentleman. Hi, all. We were just talking to him in Vegas a couple of weeks ago. Here's the boss, Howard. Did you buy the new car, Ryan? No picks tour of the vehicle. So you got to update.
Yeah, no picks or tour of the vehicle. Yes, I was trying to buy a new car today. I'm gonna go back tomorrow. I gotta leave him wanting more. Isn't that the whole thing? No, but I went and I checked it out. I was thinking about it. I ended up being there for a while. I was test driving a bunch of different vehicles, but I think I found the one I want. So yeah, sure. Stay tuned. Maybe. Yeah, I'm sure someone will end up getting pics of it somewhere. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, and Julia, you can go ahead and come in. My sister's got to grab her phone real quick if you heard that.
Who does
sound.
she like in today's 8th race at Santa Anita?
Number
4.
She's got
Great.
the 4 race.
Already
8,
scratched.
So. Already scratched?
I'm just kidding.
Oh boy. Oh, she said 7. She screamed 7 as she was running away. So we'll see if that horse has got a shot. But before we do that, we got somebody we got to bring on. Like I said, got a call to the bullpen because our boy Jackson's out. We had him on about a month or two ago to discuss the Santa Anita Derby Day, and that was a blast. He had a blast. I know he enjoyed being on, so tried to get him on as soon as possible. Tried to get him on last week, actually. Couldn't do it, but offered to come on this week. So, of course, we had to have him on. It's our guy from DRF, Gino Buccola. Gino, what's going on?
Hey, fellas. Very excited to be here with you guys. Looking forward to talking some Santa Anita. Was able to talk with Howard about a sequence that got a little chalkier than we would have liked on Monday, but I think we still did pretty well kind of navigating through that sequence. So always happy to join you, and big thanks to Jim and to Katie and everyone out there for the kind words.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat, so keep commenting there. But yeah, it was a great day yesterday. Just watched it at the house. It was some really good races. King of Gosford was one that comes to mind, who put on a show with a really nice late close. Of course, how do you let Flavien Prat go off at 4-1? I mean, come on.
Got the trip. Looked like the horse was like pointing for that race, second off the bench. It really worked out perfectly for him. Everything, he was a little farther back than normal, which was great. It was a really quality day of racing. We saw Safi come out here and dominate with a couple horses. He just spots the horses so well. Right? Like Skippy was in another good spot. I think Skippy Ongstocking has now been favored 9 times and he's won 7 of them. Mm-hmm. So it's like when they put him in those spots where he just looks good on paper, he generally beats up on those horses, and he's done a really good job finding those spots all around the country.
Yeah, it sounds like Howard says that you like King of Gosford a little bit yesterday. So good on you to you. This weekend, unfortunately, we're not going to have quite the quality that we had this past Monday. But I tell you what, I try to be pretty transparent about these cards. I thought this was a pretty difficult late pick 5 that we're going to go ahead and get into. And let me go ahead and switch this over. I am working with a different setup. I do not have 2 screens on me, so hopefully you guys can see that. Let me get that on the screen. There we go. I got the Equibase up. This is the first race of the late pick 5. It's race 6. It is at 3:30 local time. You can see the field of 8s and allowance optional claiming for $20,000, $61,000 purse. It's 1 1/8 miles on the turf, and it's for the girls. You got 4-year-olds and up. And let me get this started with our picks up on the screen. I'm going 3-7-8. Ryan's going 2-7-8, and Gino is going 3-8-7. So we've got a mixture of 4 horses in here. Gino, even though you've got a similar horse that I do, I'm going to start you off because you are the guest. You're going with the 3. She's Misbehaving, a 6-year-old mare. Oh, I love this pick. Going with my boy Ayuso and Gutierrez, the conditioner. What'd you like about this one?
Yeah, this is a really evenly matched group. I think the most likely winners are probably the 2 horses to the outside, but they're a little bit deeper closers. Like, they're not that fast early, so they have a tough time making their own trip. I think She's Misbehaving can maybe sit a little closer than the 2 of them. She had a deceiving trip last time out. I mean, she was buried down on the inside, and she's been a little bit unlucky. I generally like when horses that are like this, that have some trouble, just get a little more real estate. So she was inside. She was 6th, maybe about 6 lengths off, and she wanted to go. She just had no room. So she's the 1 in here. You can just kind of see she's like in the 4th flight of horses. So generally that's just a bad spot because you get buried with all that traffic. Like right here, when things start to move, she just got nowhere to go. And basically standing up on her right here, just absolutely nowhere to go. And she's trying to figure out a spot. And then about this time, she sort of pushes down to the inside. But the race is over for her. I mean, these horses in front of her have had the opportunity to kind of get moving with their momentum. She still didn't really want to hit that hole down on the inside all that much. I just don't think the difference between her and some of the top contenders who will probably be shorter prices is all that much. So I thought she could offer us pretty nice value in here. And then I did think the 2 to the outside were like probably really logical. Big Mama Sue is the only one with a win at 1 1/8 miles in here, and she has a couple of them. So I need her on the ticket. Vincero Grande has been facing better, but she's 0 for her last 15. So that's sort of the give and the take you have with her, right? She's coming out of better races, but she's sort of just turned into a pack animal that doesn't really like to win races. I'm going to spread out in this race. I think a lot of people will probably approach the pick 5 that way because Nisos comes a little bit later on in the sequence. I think a lot of people will single in that race or at least shorten up there. This feels like a tough race to spread out, and I'm going to do that in the pick 5 ticket I play. End up using, I think, 5 or 6 in here.
And I assume Vincero Grande is probably going to be the morning line favorite if I had to guess.
I'd say so too. Yeah.
You just can't trust her. You look at her page. She's 0 for 13 on the turf, 0 for 8 at Santa Anita. It's been a while since she got to the winner's circle. And I always get worried with these horses that are taking big drops, especially on the turf. It just kind of seems like sometimes they kind of get carried by fields and maybe the numbers come back a little better than maybe they should. I know you've got her second, Ryan. Obviously, she's a class of the field, and this is a big drop, but just it just seems like everyone's kind of in agreement. She's just really hard to trust.
I feel like we're all in agreement that she's deserving to be the favorite, and she's in all of our top threes. But I mean, you're supposed to try and beat this horse here. You mentioned the class drop, but she's not in for a tag, so this is a reasonable enough place for her. But I think Gino mentioned it. For her last 11. She's going to be coming from far out of it. And after that last race going a mile and a quarter, I learned this lesson when I bet locked out of the big cap, and ran a mile and I believe it was a 16th, maybe a mile and an eighth against Fierceness. It took too much early speed out of her, or out of him for lock, and it's going to, I would assume, do the same. This one seems better going a lot longer, like a mile and a quarter, a mile and a half have been some of her better races where she's been able to be a little closer to those paces. I just think a mile and an eighth is going to be too short. I think she's going to be too far back. And I just think you're supposed to beat this favorite here.
It's March of 2022 is when her last win was. So think about, like, what were you guys doing 3+ years ago? You know what I mean? Like,
not a lot.
Yeah. No doubt.
Sure. The Gerald Grande, you know, the vibe is probably you use her on your tickets, but just somebody that you don't trust and probably wouldn't put a win bet. I'm going to go back to you, Ryan, because you've got the 2, and neither Gino nor I have her anywhere. You've got the 2 Ultimate High, hoping that she can get back to her winning ways.
Well, so it's interesting. Gino brought up a great point, talking about she's misbehaving, that the 7 and the 8 post horses are going to be a little far out of it, and the 3 she's misbehaving should be closer up to the pace. But I think Ultimate High is going to be even closer up, and I don't think that they're going to be flying. There's not a whole lot of proven pace in here. Maybe the rail horse is going to have a bit of speed, just going dirt to turf and stretching out a little bit, but I think Ultimate High is just going to sit that perfect stalking trip, probably right in against the rail, going to get first jump on all the deep closers. I don't think they're going to be flying up front. I think the added distance isn't going to be a problem. Her best races have been routing on the turf, stretching out from the 6 furlongs now to the mile and an eighth. Obviously, I think she passes that test as she has in the past, at least going 2 turns. But it's going to bring her just closer up. I think she's just going to sit a really nice trip, and Pereira has been riding lights out, dirt, turf, even synthetic if they ever get over to that at Santa Anita. So, Ultimate High is going to be my top pick in here because I think she's going to be the most logical upsetter.
I feel like if you back her, you almost want Pereira to be a little more aggressive because it just seems like she had some success 3 and 4 back when she was just off the lead, and it doesn't really seem like there's a really established, pace setter in here. Another one that we had mentioned that's going to be but quite a bit far back and I think can maybe use a little bit of aggression is Big Mama Sue. This is the one you've got in second, Gina. You kind of touched on it. She's probably going to be out of it, but it seems like if she's going to be one that considered, maybe she can get the trip 3 back and be a little closer.
And notice her more recent wins are races when she's just not been dead last, right? I'm not asking her to be on the lead. Can she just sit mid-pack and not have to go past every other horse, probably get stuck in some extra traffic there? In this field, she actually might be able to just kind of naturally be a little bit closer because there's not all that much early speed in here. I think that the horse that'll probably go will be Amanda Rose coming out of those short races. And if everybody kind of slots in behind her and has some spots not too far out of it, I completely agree. Ultimate High is on my pick 5 ticket. I completely agree with what Ryan was saying. I want to use her for sure too. And I wanted to use the horses who could sit close. Even a horse like Berry Valley is interesting to me, and I might throw on the pick 5. This horse could just get a nice trip stretching out. She's never been farther than 6.5 furlongs. I think they get aggressive with her, just sort of hoping, hey, look, some of our better races came a little earlier on in our career when this horse was able to be close in races, and she hasn't been able to do that as much lately. I think they're going to try to get a little aggressive. So I thought this was a really challenging race. I wanted to use like the horses who I think could win, the horses who I think could be close, because I'll shorten up in some other spots. But you were right, Noah. There are like 2 different races like this through the sequence that I thought were really challenging.
Yeah, and Berry Valley's one, I think, off the stretch out, there's a little upside there. You mentioned Amanda Rose. The one time that she went long on the turf, she just got nailed at 8-1, and I think that's one of her better numbers on the page. So, I mean, if you wanted to press the all button, I really wouldn't talk you off of it. It's that tough of a race to get things kicked off. So we'll move on to the next race, but I'm going 3-7-8. Ryan's going 2-7-8, and Gino's going 3-8-7. Let me get that switched over again. Struggling a little bit with the one screen, but I think we're working with it. Hopefully we can see that now as I get that up on the screen. There we go. This is the feature on the card. It's race 7, the Triple Bend Grade 3 $100,000 purse. You've got a smaller field of 5 and one notable name, obviously going to be the morning line favorite and the 2 Nisos. I know the morning lines are out. I do not have them off the top of my head. Maybe Ryan or Gino, you have that in front of you, or maybe somebody can find that. I want to say Nisos is about 3 to 5. Definitely going to be lower than that. But anyway, he's going to be the favorite for Juan Hernandez and Bob Baffert. And then I don't know about you guys, but I thought this was a really tough trying to figure out who is going to finish second in this race. I thought any of those 4 could really do it. Let's see who we're going with. I'm going 2-4-1. Ryan's going 2-4-5. And Gino, I like it. Trying to go with the upset, going with the 1 Vlahos. I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to you and to try and convince us why Vlahos is going to get the job done in this year's Triple Bend.
Yeah, I think if Nisos loses this race, it's because somebody beats him on the front end. Because I think everybody else in here is very content pressing and sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And Howard kind of pointed it out looking in the comments section.
Yeah,
I get a little nervous sometimes when horses, not that they're rerouted, but maybe they're put in softer spots. Like Nisos was going to run in the Met Mile and instead is going to be running in this race. Sometimes I wonder if that means like the trainer doesn't think they're doing quite as well, or maybe they might need another race. But he just came out of a really tough edition of the Churchill Downs. Like that was a loaded race where he ran second. I have 0 to knock on Nisos whatsoever. I think as a horse, he's really, really good. But you're kind of hitting on it, Noah. I think that you can go through each of the horses in here and find that there's some talent and some reasons to be beat. And Vlahos is a horse who has a really high ceiling. And I think he's just going to sneak away and at least get an opportunity to be turning for home and still be on the lead when Nisos comes up to him. So I'm going to use Vlahos in that case. I don't know if the other horses, like, I don't think someone's going to sit next to him and close with him. I think if you beat him, you're going to be in front of him. He gets a little too far behind. You sneak away, and he can't quite get there. So that's in the way the pick 5 sequence is. I love to try to single in spots or shorten up in spots when other people aren't. 90% of the pick 5 tickets, I think, on Saturday are going to single Nisos, and that's probably the right thing to do. Especially if you're playing on a limited budget. I just like to single in other spots. I'll have my single coming up in the next race that I think is kind of a really tricky race.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. I think there are some tricky races in the sequence, and if you're trying to skinny up, I think this is going to be the logical spot. Ryan, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm just going to ask you straight away, are you singling, or are you trying to beat him in a pick 5 scenario?
If you use Nisos, it has to be a single. You can't use anybody else. You're already going to lose so much. You would lose way too much equity if you're spreading it and including Nisos. I would say you either beat him or try to beat him, or you got to single him. But Gino brought up an excellent point. Singling in races that are spread races for most people, that's how you get the real value out of horizontal sequences. You just have to find an opinion that's strong and difficult race. You're going to be wrong more than you're right in this game.
Absolutely.
But if you can be right in a race that's really tough, you all of a sudden get so much more equity out of your ticket. And you're able to, spread elsewhere in whether it's another simple leg or maybe it's a really difficult sequence. Like the late pick 5 at Churchill Downs this past weekend with the carryover. That was a perfect one where you kind of have to nail down a strong opinion in a really tough race. That was an impossible sequence. And then, it allows you to kind of spread elsewhere. So that's a really good point. But I'm singling Nisos in my pick 5.
I think, Ryan, it's really just about having a plan, right? Because I think too many people come into a sequence, you handicap the sequence, you don't think about how you're going to map it out with the wagering part of it. And it's like having the plan is key. I don't necessarily always have a template. Like I need to single this horse or I need to single in this race. You're 100% right. Most of the time, if you're using the really short price horse, you just want to single them. Unless you know that you can find somewhere else in the ticket where maybe you're going to zag when everyone else zigs, and that's how you try to build your ticket. So completely agree with you. Just have a plan, whatever it is. Don't go up there blind, especially if it's a big, long line, because the people behind you are going to be frustrated when you're sitting up there trying to put your ticket together right then.
Exactly. That's an excellent point, Gino.
Yeah, I get what you guys are saying. And the one thing that's kind of got me steered the wrong way is he worked at Churchill after he ran in the Churchill Downs, which leads me to believe that they were intending to maybe ship out to New York and run in that race, but for whatever reason, they come back. He's worked once since then at Santa Anita and worked well, obviously. So, it's an interesting point. We'll have to see. And the fact that Bob is 9 for 18, 50%, and 6 of those have been in second. I don't think he's
They're
really
firing.
worried about it.
I think 4 of those 6 have
well.
been in races where he's also had the winner.
The
as
other
well.
horse.
So
Yeah.
One more point on Nisos and why he's not in the Met Mile. I think it just came up too tough, and they don't want to. They've had issues enough keeping Nisos at the track. He is a wonderful horse. I just don't think. I think they have bigger plans in the Met Mile. I know it's a prestigious race, but I mean, I just think that this is maybe like a bigger end goal type scenario than it is, let's go to the Met Mile and let's run against Mindframe and Banishing and White Abario and Fierceness. And, it's going to be the names of names that show up in that race. So I think this is very, very nice to have a plan with a horse like Nisos.
Yeah, there's an up-and-comer in this race who's coming off of a really solid buyer. I mean, if you believe in that, the 98 matches Nisos's buyer in the Churchill Downs. And that's the 4 Smooth Cruising. You've got him second, Ryan. I've got him second. Gino maybe not so high on him. He just looked like he really skipped over the slop, and it's just a question of whether he can prove that against older and against much tougher.
Yeah, he's got to prove it again. I love Gino's pick with Vlahos. Mine was similar of Smooth Cruising. Obviously, he's going to have to back up that sloppy track effort with 1 over the fast, but I do like that he's stretching out from 6 to 7. He does have some good early speed, and I think he's going to be the one pressing Vlahos, or at least trying to. Obviously, Edwin Maldonado is going to be the most aggressive out of the gate, so if he wants a clear lead, he's going to get that. But Smooth Cruising should be, a clear second, I would say, early. And if, maybe Vlahos doesn't have enough and the Churchill Downs took a lot out of Nisos and Dr. Venkman needs one off the bench, I mean, I could definitely see Smooth Cruising getting there in time. We talked about this horse last time he ran on April 26th. Has faced some of the best 3-year-olds. And worth noting, this horse gets in about 12 pounds lighter than the rest of the field in here. 10 to 12 pounds lighter, only at 114. Everybody else is pretty much at 126, mainly because he's the 3-year-old going against older, but also because he hasn't had any stakes wins. So he has a couple allowances there, and I think that works to his benefit. But he's going to have to back it up and take another step forward.
And typically, I'm not a weight guy because normally it's 2, 4, 5, but 12 pounds. Right. Seems like
that's significant
scenario. One more thing I wanted to actually mention with Vlahos, Gino, I don't know if you mentioned it, but they actually took the blinkers off last time, and I think it helped out because in some of his previous races, Maldonado was kind of shoving him to the lead. Last time he kind of got there on his own and seemed relaxed. I know he didn't get the job done on the lead last time, but even in the stretch, it almost seemed like he dug in a little bit because he could see those horses to his outside. And I wonder if there's some improvement off of that. I don't know if you noticed that, but
completely agree. And
wouldn't surprise me.
He just didn't seem like you said he had to be ridden as hard, and he seemed to respond a little bit better. And so in a smaller field like this, if he's able to sneak away and not have to get as much pressure, I think that would be the key. And I think Ryan was pointing out, like, if we're trying to beat him, I just don't think horses are going to close with him. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for the horses that are going to be in front of him. And honestly, like, the other 4 in this race are talented. They're not as proven as Nisos, but Dr. Venkman has run some really good races. He's a graded stakes winner. He's probably just going to need the race. The 2 races that Smooth Cruising run are good. Spirit of Machina won this race a couple years ago. He was getting really good at that point, and then he's kind of tailed off form a little bit because he just went a little wrong. He was off for a year and a half or so. And then we saw the same thing with Nisos. Like, these are talented horses. Vlahos has a high ceiling. They've just had a hard time putting it all together. Maybe we'll see one of these horses kind of jump up and see if they can match with Nisos.
Yeah, and Spirit of McKenna is the only one that we don't have in the top 3, but I really would not be surprised if he finds himself in the trifecta somehow. 4 for 9 lifetime was really good when I believe he was a 5-year-old back then. Yeah. Kind of got to the races late, but just was really good for Georgie P. And then he kind of had that incident where he got really shuffled really bad at Del Mar, and it almost kind of seems like
that took something out of him. Yeah, because that was a loaded race. That Bing Crosby with the Chosen Vaughn, Anarchist, Dr. Scheibel, that was a really tough race, and he got in some trouble there. He was only 4-1 in that spot. It just showed you at that time he was in great form.
Yeah, and Gino, you've got Dr. Venkman third is the last horse that we need to touch on. It just seems like if you're trying to get some value out of the race, Dr. Venkman's probably the one that you want to try to beat in some sense.
Yeah, because I think he'll be the second choice in here just off of his resume, off of what he's done and his overall form. I mean, you can look at it and just eliminate the 1.25 miles and say that was too far. Everything else for him makes a lot of sense. It's just you feel like you'd want the race off the bench for him if you were trying to beat Nisos.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a cause for concern when he's been off since August 31st. It makes you lead to believe that maybe he needs one. But if he fires off the bench, he's certainly got numbers to match Nisos. So I think it's really, I don't know if it's just Nisos and move on. I think you got to look at these horses carefully. So we'll go ahead and move on to race 8. But in race 7, I'm going 2-4-1. Brian's going 2-4-5. And Gino is going 1-2-5. Next race we're going to be talking about is race 8. Let me see if I can get that up on the screen here. There we go. Race 8, maiden claiming 50,000, 6 furlongs flat on the turf. And let me scroll down to the field. We got a field of 9 straight. No, it's not straight. We've got 1 4-year-old filly, but the rest are 3-year-old fillies. Morning line favoritism. Again, a really tough race. I think you could go a number of ways, and let's see who we are going with in this middle leg. I'm going 2-4-5. Ryan and Gino on the same way.
Man.
Ryan's going 5-4-3, and Gino is going 5-6-3. Ryan, we'll give you the opportunity to start off with the number 5, and then we'll let Gino follow. What'd you like about the 5, Ellie Moore?
Yeah, it's too bad we're not joined by Jackson tonight because I know he would have this 5 on top too. And Gino, I'm curious if this is the reason you chose it, but one of his biggest angles is older horses against 3-year-olds until about midsummer. This is the only 4-year-old in the field, but on top of that, came back last time in a really nice comeback effort for Peter Miller, who doesn't fire all the time, off those kind of longer layoffs. This one came off of 364-day layoff. Last time out, gets second off the bench now. Any improvement off that effort, this horse is going to sit a perfect trip again. JJ Hernandez in the saddle should just sit the exact right trip you want to see. There's no drop second off the bench here. It was a pretty strong opinion for an A on this one for me.
And Gino, you've got her as well. I think this is the single that you were indicating. Yep. Second off the bench, it looks like she's due to improve, and obviously she's got the experience to do it.
I think she's primed to run a huge race. And I believe because you have the 4 of these horses that all exit that May 3rd race, they were all separated by not much. Uptown Sweetheart is also going to take money. I just think 4 or 5 horses in here are going to take money. And I feel like she has the biggest right to improve for so many of the reasons that Ryan was saying, right? Second start back off of that long layoff. She sat a great trip, but it just really looked like the 6.5 and the layoff were a little too much for her because she loomed up right on even terms with Frog, which is just a great name for a horse, Frog. It makes me laugh when it's saying it. And now you get the cut back, you get the second off the long layoff, you get Hernandez to jump aboard. So I wouldn't be shocked if she's just a little more patient, even just sitting not that much farther behind, but just a little farther back so she can relax. And if you look at all the races that she's been in for 50, they're all really good, and you can make excuses for them. Her first time when she dropped in for 50, she was second, beaten 3/4 of a length. Then she came back, and she had to go a mile and an eighth, and that was too far for her going 50. Then she's off for a layoff of a few months. She shows back up in a race that was sandwiched by layoffs, so she just didn't fire that day. She's off again after that. Everything makes sense for her. The return race was very good, and I think she's just going to run really, really well in a race that it looks like Frog gets the lead, and I think she's the second fastest. Naturally, she should be sitting right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like with the start under her belt, she's going to go by Frog this time because, she couldn't quite do it last time, but it just looked like she probably needed the race. She gets a big jockey upgrade in Juan Hernandez. And I think, if people are playing the sequence, people just kind of see 0 for 9 and they'll just kind of pass. But I think you were spot on with it, Gino. Look at those races carefully, especially at the level. And I think you can make excuses and give her better credit for those efforts. So I'm using her. You guys obviously are using her. Gino's going with the strong single. I love it. Let's talk about some others. Let's go back to you, Gino, because you've got a horse that neither Ryan nor I have. That's the 6 Uptown Sweetheart. Kimura. Michael McCarthy was in a pretty tough race last summer as a 2-year-old, lost the thought process, who came back and won some really nice races over the summer and the fall at Del Mar. She's been off for quite a while, and now she's in for the tag, but maybe she just belongs here. Yeah,
I think she faced a lot better. My big concern with her is this just a prep? Like, to get her into a race shorter next time. And they're kind of teasing you, putting her in for 50 because she actually ran pretty well. There were 3 next out winners in the debut. Thought Process, who came back, is a grade 3 winner. I think was the second choice in the Breeders' Cup. in that division. You had Schilleflied, who won next out and is stakes placed. Even the last place finisher, the 9th place finisher, came back to win a race next time out. She was a bit slow to get going, but once she shifted off the rail, she really did get going late, but she did just kind of look like a horse who wants to go longer. So that would be my main concern with her. I do like the fact that when you have a race like this, where you have a race where there's a common race where a lot of horses come out of and they weren't separated by all that much, I do like using, if you're going to, like, a horse that wasn't in that race, because sometimes you don't know, was that a strong race or was it a weak race? And if it wasn't very strong and they're all separated by not much, Uptown Sweetheart might just be better than a lot of this group. I'm more worried about the trip in here, though, because as we kind of talked it out, I don't think there's going to be that much early speed in here. I don't think they're going to be lined up battling. That's probably what she would need to be able to win this race. So I respect her ability. I think she'll be coming late on the scene for 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah, it's like you said, I think it's probably just going to be Frog. Kyle Frey is going to kind of send from the 3-hole, and then it'll just be a kind of a jockey's race from there to just kind of sort themselves out. Let's go back to you, Ryan. Let's go with your 2nd place horse. You've got the 4 Infinity Dream. Ayuso, Richard Baltus, who's a little cold right now. He's got some runners in the money. But you could make a strong case that if you want anyone out of that race on May 3rd, it's this one.
Yeah, it's not often that I will see a common race, to Gino's point, and like a bunch of horses out of there. But this will be an exception. 2nd off the bench for Baltus is an angle that I like. Him and Ayuso have teamed up to have a lot of success just in terms of them getting some good prices home. So I think the value is going to be there on this runner. Again, 2nd off the bench is the main kind of look for me. Faced older last time as well. Gonna need things to heat up a little bit. They did not go. They didn't fly through that first quarter, going almost 24 seconds, going 6.5 at Santa Anita is rather slow. But I think 2nd off the bench is going to benefit. This one did come flying late. Had to alter course a little bit coming down the stretch, but I don't think it would have, gotten them the victory or anything. But I do think that there's room for improvement. And again, I think the value is going to be there. So this is one I'll take. I'll use in my horizontals, but I'll definitely be using in verticals if I play them in this race.
Yeah, maybe she was benefiting from Frog and your guys' top choice, Ellie Moore, maybe getting a little tired with the 6.5. But I think she's probably a use. I mean, there's really no reason for her to improve again. She was around the same price as some of the other fillies in that race. So 3rd start of her career, 2nd start of the form cycle. I think she's due for a pretty big race. I want to talk about the 2 Cloudy Women. And I'm a little surprised you guys don't have anywhere, but I totally understand. Again, coming out of the same race, she was the one that actually finished last out of the 4. She ran 5th. She lost by 2, and she was favored that day. She was dropping in from maiden special weight, and I waited to show this because I wanted to kind of show the trip. I think the trip on the 2 Cloudy Women was a little bit maybe underestimated. Maybe we will not watch this replay. We are waiting for that to come up. But
she did lose. You're right, though. If you want some help on that, because I completely agree. Like, she had a good start. She was about 2 lengths off in 5th, and then it was one of those sneaky shuffles where she lost position just kind of because of the horses around her, and all of a sudden she's like probably a length or 2 farther back than she would have liked to be in a race where they weren't separated by all that much. So she did just keep getting kind of pushed back and never. I think by the time that took a lot out of her by the time she tried to loom back up.
Yeah, because then it looked like Hector kind of asked her a little bit to kind of get back into that position into the 2nd fight, which she was kind of previously in. And then she was still kind of in between horses. And I really wish I could bring it up, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see that. But, she was a favorite that day. I'm going to kind of excuse that. I know she's got better races to get back to. But the worry with her is, maybe there's not enough pace in here. And she's been chasing hot paces, so maybe she's just kind of by default ended up back there. So hopefully Hector can get her in a better position, a little bit closer to the lead. And I do like her chances a little bit. I think the last one we need to touch on is the pace setter Frog, who we've kind of a little bit hinted at. Gino, I'll let you have the final words. Another McCarthy entrant who maybe might be going for the 6 that you've gotten 2nd. We'll see about that.
And I completely agree with Ryan in that this was the type of race where I could have used all 4 back. And that's sort of why I singled, because it was based on how I'm going to build my ticket, because I do think Frog could get the lead in here and be tough to run down on the cutback if it's not getting pressed that much from the 5 or others. I do a ribbit from Howard there. I do think Cloudy Women with maybe a little more aggressive position and not some trouble there could be in the mix. I do think Infinity Dream, second start off the bench, putting 2 starts together, that horse could absolutely fire. I just liked Ellie Moore a little bit more. And so if I like that horse a little bit more in the chances and then a couple other altogether, instead of going 4 deep or 5 deep, I'll take the stand here. But I don't have many knocks on Frog at all. I think the 6 will be great. The cutback will be very helpful. Got the lead, dealt with a little pressure. Fits really well in this spot. If you're someone that's singling Nisos, you're probably using Frog on the ticket, right? So it just depends on how you're building your ticket. It was a tricky race. I'll take a stand, Ryan. Hopefully you and I are 5s together here.
I like it. Yeah, no, nothing against Frog at all. I think Frog makes a ton of sense, but I think probably just going to be a little too short of a price, at least for me. If I'm using Nisos, that's probably one I'm going to try and beat as Noah, someone's trying to break into your room.
Yeah. Oh, that's my dog.
I'm more of a Komodo dragon guy than a frog guy also.
Nice.
Thinking of like relevant reptiles or, amphibians that we could talk about there. Yeah.
Seems like the race where you either use like all 4 of those horses that are coming out of that race, or you just pick one, or you don't use any of them. Because it seems like if you try to pick 2 or 3, you're kind of pulling ears, and then with everyone's luck, you're gonna choose the wrong one. As it looks like my dog is gonna get out of it.
I will say, if Frog is the winner, Frank Miramati is gonna have a fun call on that one.
Yeah,
I guarantee he's gonna work that into the final call there.
Certainly. Let's go ahead and move on to the penultimate race. I'm going 2-4-5. Ryan's going 5-4-3, and Gino is going 5-6-3. Let's go ahead and get that switched over real quick as I pull up race 9. Got the Equibase right up here. There we go. Race 9 on the Saturday card. It is starter allowance 62.5. Purse of 16.5, going 6 furlongs on the main track. It's for the older boys. You got 4, 5, 6. And an 8-year-old in here. Field of 8, and the morning line favoritism, I have to believe, is probably either between the 3 Grays and Sun or the 4 Bronco Nagurski. I think the 6, Gina, I'm going to beat you on this one. Ground Control to Major Tom could maybe take some money and could be a short price there. Probably one of those 3, but I think another one where you could go a number of ways. Picks are up on the screen now. Ryan and I are in lockstep. I'm going 4-3-1. Ryan's also going 4-3-1. And Gino is the odd man out yet again, going 3-8-4. So, Gino, we'll start it with you. You're going with the speedy Calbred, Grays and Sun, for some low South connections, Pieris and Sergio Morfin.
Yeah, this horse I think it's a really good fit for him in this spot. There's just not that much early speed. He ran really well when finished second against a tougher group last time out, now dropping in to a more restricted spot. And if you see 0-for-7 at Santa Anita, that was honestly because most of the races this horse was in were just against tougher horses. And now they're starting to card lower level races that fit Grays and Sun a lot better. I mean, look at his form recently. They're just not really bad races. He ran really well last time out when finishing second, 2 starts back. That was a tough race at Los Alamitos when he's finishing 4th there. 3 starts back. He's beaten just a nose in a spot just like this. And I just don't know who in here is naturally as quick as him. So I think if he's able to clear in here, he's a tough horse to leave out of pick 5s. I think there are versions of this race where he just clears the field.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And obviously, certainly a threat. Ryan and I both have in second. I don't know about you, Ryan. I'm actually trying to get a little skinny in this race. I'm going 3-4. I don't know about you, but in a tough sequence like this, I think maybe this could be a spot where you could shorten up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm also going 3-4, I believe, in here. I am. I'm going 3-4 in here as well. Grays and Sun, this is clearly the horse to beat. The speed figures, I don't know about tower, but they certainly stand out amongst this group. Gino mentioned finally getting into a very reasonable spot. This is, of all the horses in this race, this is the condition Grays and Sun is like, and the connections have got to be like so excited about. This fits in perfectly. It should be his day. We're not going to get a great price, but again, it may not matter. This is your most likely winner in the race, no doubt about it. So one I had to include, as well as the number 4, Bronco Nagurski. I love the move by Jeff Mullins to claim this horse and immediately protect. That's always a sign of confidence. His 2 dirt races, the last time routing maybe didn't leave a whole lot to be desired in terms of him threatening the winners, but those are much better horses than he's facing in here. The Time Form and the Buyer both stack up pretty competitively. And then last time out, Sprinting going the 5.5 with the cutback and the surface switch seems to wake him up, and obviously the substantial class drop as well. So one I thought certainly warranted some respect is one that could come from off the pace. And again, another one that could certainly take a step up for first time in the barn for Jeff Mullins.
Yeah, and Gino, you've got him third. I can kind of imagine in my head, Steve Miotti's not real thrilled that he lost this one for 5. Maybe they were thinking that they could sneak by, but was 4-5 that day. Got the job done professionally. I do like him a lot. I think Ryan made a lot of great points. Jeff Mullins claims back, brings back in a reasonable amount of time. If you check in the top left, he actually claimed for himself. He owns this horse as well. So I think an interesting move. He's got some upside because he just hasn't been on the dirt very many times. And a lot of these others, you just kind of seen what they can do. So I think there's definitely some upside here with the 4 Bronco Nurkowski.
And they can put him, like they showed you, they can put him into the race earlier at levels like this and at distances like this. Like when you're not facing as tough and as classy of horses, you can ask this horse for more early. He can sit a couple lengths off like he did. Whereas look at earlier on in his career, he was so far out of it. His last 7 or 8 races prior to the win, that drop just helped him so much. I think he'll be probably pretty close. You just got to look by default, right? Who are the other quick horses in here? He could be, again, sitting like in that same spot, sitting third, and probably one of the horses with back class compared to, like, I thought when you compare the races that a lot of these horses come out of, I thought Bronco Nagurski and Clements Ride were probably coming out of just like the strongest races. Like Clements Ride's only been in for the tag the one time, and everything else was like pretty solid races against Calbred Company. So I like to look at the races that they come out of and the company they've been facing. I think Bronco and Clements Ride probably have been facing the best horses repeatedly.
Yeah, and Ryan, I think the same point goes for the 1 as it did the 3, where you get some of these lower level connections and they're in these kind of restricted races. And, he was in a 50,000 non-winners to 2 last time, but gets to stay restricted. But just seems like it's a nicer spot. And, if there is some pace in here, it seems like he could be a benefactor of that.
Yeah, much nicer spot for him here. Obviously got the restricted starter allowance last time, which was nice. He ran respectively in there, but he just kind of ran around there. He saw 3 horses in front of him. He saw 2-3 horses behind him, and he was just kind of happy with that as they went around. But I think the drop down significant. The rail horse is the rail draw is the only reason I couldn't pick him a little higher. Yeah. Obviously, these aren't the most consistent animals we're talking about, so I thought maybe could be a little bit compromised from the rail, but gets third off the layoff of over a year out of the John Sadler barn, so can certainly take a step forward off those paired up 66 buyers. We could see an improved effort, and you mentioned it. If there is some pace and it does start to fall apart towards the end, this is another one where the trainer also owns the horse. So I think that's a very reasonable spot. Trainers, if they own their horse, they're going to put them in a very reasonable spot. They're not going to, go in over their skis. They're not going to, they could just drop them to win. But when they're in, they're going to be competitive. So Clements Ride certainly deserves some respect here.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I've got him third as well. Gino, we'll have you wrap things up because you've got the 8. Howbeit for Willie Anton Georgie, Peter Miller coming off of a trainer switch from Justin Evans and a barn switch coming in from Turf Paradise. I've seen this combo hook up a couple times, especially in these low-level races. And this 8-year-old is certainly a seasoned veteran. Maybe not as proven.
Well, I think something we have to do, too, if you're someone who's played Southern California for a long time, you have to make sure you sort of readjust what you knew about like levels, because now they're riding these lower levels, right? So sometimes you'd see horses that come in from Turf Paradise, you'd probably dismiss them immediately and think like they weren't facing good enough horses. But at these lower level races, the horses from Turf Paradise, they can win. The horses from Los Alamitos running in the 1,000-yard races, they can absolutely win. The Northern California races. That's why they wrote these to give those horses a chance. Horses from Emerald, they've got a shot. So I just think Howbeit's in pretty nice form overall. Like those races stack up very well with this group. And he has a little bit of versatility to him also. Like I wouldn't be shocked to kind of see him placed in different spots in here. So I think if you're using a few in this race, he felt like he was kind of in the mix with the others to me. And I actually do have him on the pick 5 ticket because I was able to single in that last race. So I can give myself an opportunity here and in the last, the closeout race that we're going to get to right now, Noah, to spread out a little bit.
And it seems like the outside post is just a great spot for him just because he has that versatility. You know, he can just break.
Gives him the options.
Billy can look to his left and then just kind of judge things from there. So probably one you're going to want to use, not going skinny like Ryan and I, but I'm going 4-3-1. Ryan's also going 4-3-1, and Gino is going 3-8-4. We've moved on to the last race on the day. It's coming up right now. It is on the screen. It is race 10. Race 10. Let me go ahead and get that up there. Allowance officer claiming 50,000, purse of 61,000, 6.5 furlongs down the hill on the turf course. And we've got 3, 4, and 5-year-old girls. Biggest field of the day, field of 10 to close things out on Saturday. And let me get the picks up to bring up here for the finale. I'm going 2-5-8. Ryan's going 8-4-5, and Gino is going 2-4-5. So in another tough race, a lot of us pretty similar in here. Got a mixture of 4 horses. And Ryan, I'll let you get things kicked off with the 8. Beyond Lucky for a jockey I don't know if I've ever seen on the West Coast in Kendrick Carmouche. I know he's got an entry earlier in the day. We'll have to find out if that changes. Jonathan Thomas is certainly one that is a name we've been familiar in seeing on the West Coast.
Because there's no racing in New York, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Until next week. So you wonder if he just said, "Hey, like, right, I can get him out. I can get a couple out there."
I want to say he's done this before where Kendrick Carmouche has come out. I can't remember exactly, but I feel like he's done a similar move. We're on this week off. Obviously noted no Rispoli in town. He is in Saratoga, likely to work journalism. If I had to guess, I don't think he's taking a vacation right now. Yeah. I was looking at this race and there's a couple weird things. One, the breeding on the 3 is an Arkansas bred by not this time out of a more than ready mare. Not every day you see that. And then Kendrick Carmouche is booked on my top choice, the 8. For Jonathan Thomas. And Beyond Lucky, I like the milers cutting back to the 6.5 down the hill, especially if they have the ability to be forwardly placed. It just keeps them in the race. This horse has maybe had some issues finishing some races off, but has been in Santa Anita now he obviously had his last start here in the mile maiden special weight race where he just got up over Nafisa. Now cuts back to the 6.5, and I know it's a unique distance, and we talked about that a lot, but it kind of just looked like a light bulb angle for this horse. I'm curious how Kendrick Carmouche is going to ride going down the hill. That's a very tricky kind of layout and configuration that they have. By the way, no, I got this. DRF might just be having some issues right now. I haven't gotten mine to load since race 2. So I've just been going off.
They are. I can tell you for a fact.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do that.
You see the problems channel on the DRF Slack channel right now. They're working on it. So
okay, no worries. Even the greatest sites go down from time to time. But Beyond Lucky, the cutback to 6.5 again for those milers, I think just makes a lot of sense. The only kind of pause I have is Kendrick going down the hill for what I imagine is the first time in his career. Unless his mount earlier on in the day is going down the hill. I didn't manage to check that one. But I thought Beyond Lucky made a lot of sense. Jonathan Thomas has had a string out here for a good bit. And everywhere he's placed his horses here have been with a lot of intention. So I thought 8 Beyond Lucky certainly deserved a shot, but I'm going to go, I believe, a couple deep in my pick 5 ticket here. I go 2 deep. But the 8 is not one I wanted to leave off my ticket.
Yeah, as I get that up, Gino, I'm going to have you talk about our top pick in the number 2 Quick Brown Fox, but I'll just throw that up while I try and fix this, but go ahead.
Yeah, Quick Brown Fox was very good in the career debut. That was sprinting on the dirt. She just beat by a horse named James Austin, who came right back to win, but that was in April of 2024. So following that, Quick Brown Fox is off for 10 months, shows back up on March the 1st, and she actually breaks her maiden, winning in a turf sprint really nicely, going 6 furlongs. She steps up, she faces winners, and in the race going a mile, she just didn't get a good start, and the race was basically over because Seismic Beauty got the lead and nobody was passing. And we just saw Seismic Beauty come back, win a graded stakes race over the weekend. I think Quick Brown Fox now gets back to the turf. I think she'll just get out of the gate a little bit better this time. I think they'll be very adamant about trying to get her out of the gate. Noah, I'm just expecting a much better effort from her now. 3rd start of the form cycle, getting back to the grass. I think the 6.5 will be fine for her. Maybe the mile was too far, but just a lot of reasons why we can expect her to run better in here.
She just never looked like she was traveling all that smoothly. I don't know if it was dirt or just she just didn't fire, but just seems
behind
like
the other horses right away, you know, just like not in the normal spot.
It just seems like, you know, cutting back to one turn and getting back to the grass where it looked like she just loved it when she broke her maiden two back. I feel like you got to go with her, and maybe people will kind of discount her off of that last effort. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a better price. Unfortunately, I cannot quite get this up, but I'll try to remember some stuff off of the top of my head. Ryan, I'll go back to you. You and Gino both have the 4, who I believe is a speedy type for Ayuso and Pipey. I was a little weary on her just because she's stepping up in class from state breds to open, but if she gets a pretty reasonable lead, I think she's definitely going to be one that's tough to catch.
Yeah, I am going to need to call you out a little bit because about 2 months ago, you were on the show, maybe not on the show, but in our group chat, and said Armando Ayuso is just the best turf jockey on the West Coast, and nobody's better than him. And in a race where he's going to be on the lead. I know, I'm just kidding. You didn't say he was the best. You said top 3, though.
Top 3. I'll stand
but either way, yeah, a Calbred facing open now. But Mike Pipey has this runner won her last 2. So clearly going well. I don't think that this is the toughest open race going down the hill, and she just won going down the hill. And I think we're all in agreement that down the hill at Santa Anita is maybe the most horse for course angle that exists in a lot of racing, at least stateside. So lovely Idaho makes a lot of sense. Ayuso and Pipey, you might get a decent price because she's a Calbred. I don't know that you're going to get a heavy favorite in here, but this is one I thought would definitely be on the lead early under Ayuso, and he's done a really good job rationing his horses on the front end. He did that in, I want to say, the opener yesterday at Santa Anita on a huge long shot for Leonard Powell, and he tried to do it in the finale, but just got caught a little bit late, ended up losing by about a length. But either way, he's rationed his speed really well on the front end. I love how he's kind of come along as a jockey. So I'm not gonna poo-poo the top 3 turf jockey idea, because he's certainly held up his end of the bargain, and he's winning on prices. And he's winning, you know, when the betting board doesn't necessarily tell you he's supposed to win. He's finding
in different ways too.
Yeah. Exactly. Right? Yeah. He can do it on the lead. He can do it from off the pace. He really uses the horse to his strength, and he doesn't try and do something out of the ordinary. So I really like what he's done and how he's matured as a jockey. So lovely Idaho, I thought made a lot of sense going down the hill.
Ryan, I love how you've matured your stance. Love the guy for sure. Gino, we'll let you touch on the last horse that we've got in the mix, and that's the 5, Invincible Molly. In for the tag, but I always say this: leave that combo of Barrios and Mullins on the turf off your tickets at your own risk.
This is a horse who I think fits really well because she was facing better. I think the 6.5 is going to be perfect for her. The only other time she went 6.5, she didn't really run all that poorly. She was beaten just a couple lengths, and she was in a stakes race then. And since then, she's been facing just better horses. This is a good drop. This is a good spot for her because she came off the bench. She was at this level. She was about 4 lengths off. She angled kind of inside looking for room. She had to angle all the way around, but she had to wait a little bit before she angled around. And that honestly might have been the difference between winning and finishing second, just having to wait a little bit. I think she's very well suited to run a good race. And that's what, even with Nysos, whatever you want to do, I think the first leg, the third leg, and the 5th leg of the sequence are races where people are probably going to be using 4 or 5 different horses. So you really do have to kind of pick and choose and take a stance. There's no way you're going to be able to use everyone that you kind of had in your first run through.
Yeah, I think it's a really tough race to end things out. We'll end the handicapping on this note. Professor Pilar's with the English lesson. He says, when learning to type the sentence, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy cow. Test your skill as does every letter in the alphabet. And personally, I've never been a great, typer myself. So maybe I should, start doing that. Help it out.
Thanks, Jim. You learn something new every day. How about that, Jim?
You do. Right? Well, it's a good thing that DRF decided to crash on us in the last race, because we're actually done with the races. So we can go ahead and move on to the pick 5 tickets. Gino, I'll get yours up first. There's your ticket right there. You're going 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 with 1, 2, with 5 singling Ellie Moore in the middle leg, and then 1, 3, 4, 8, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 with a $120 ticket. Now, Gino, typically we have a little universal rule where we're not supposed to go over $100, and maybe that was my fault, but I'm going to go ahead and give you a T anyways.
No problem.
Tee
me up.
But $120 ticket, I think that just goes to show how tough of a ticket is. So,
I think a lot of people would probably like look at this and say, I'm going to single Nysos, Gino, and maybe turn it into a $60 ticket. You can look at the other horses that I've sort of used around there if you want to get an idea, or if maybe your budget is, under $100 or whatever your budget is. I'll try to single in a race that isn't the Nysos race because I just think so many other people will do that. And then I give myself a couple prices in some of the other races to where even if Nysos wins, I can certainly turn a return on this investment, especially because the single will be in a race where that horse isn't going to be like an overwhelming favorite. That horse will probably be one of 3 or 4 that all take a good amount of money.
Certainly. No, I love the ticket. And I think if you're going to single somewhere other than with the 2 Nysos, obviously if you do single Nysos, you're going to have to find prices otherwise. So you either take that approach or you go with your stand where you, go with a middling price and hope that you can get it done in one of those more wide open legs. So good on you to you. Good luck with that ticket. We'll bring up Ryan's. We've got a $120 ticket and we've got a $6 ticket. Ryan's going 2, 7, 8 with 2, with 5, with 3, 4, with 4, 8. Now, when Ryan was texting me earlier, he was adamant that he was going to play this ticket multiple times. So Ryan, talk us through this very cheap ticket.
Yeah, I texted a $5 base to make it $60. To make it $60. Play it 10 times over. So I felt confident in staying skinny. It was that kind of sequence. If it wasn't this, I was going to be going, wildly deep in those other 3 legs. Other than singling Nysos, who I believe is, I mean, this can't be a hot take, is the most likely winner on the sequence. Maybe even the entire day around the country. I haven't really looked at the other cards yet, but he's well above, talent-wise what the rest of that field is. And then, the 5 Ellie Moore. I'm happy Gino and I are in agreement on that. Another one I chose to single. I think you'll be able to get some value if you're right in that race because it's going to be a pretty lukewarm betting board, I would imagine, or a good betting race where money's spread out across the 4 or 5 runners, as Gino said. So the 5 Ellie Moore is going to be taking my money as she faces younger in the rest of the entire field as the only 4-year-old, and second off the bench I think makes a lot of sense. Point I didn't get to mention on Ellie Moore earlier, or rather I forgot to. Peter Miller had Edwin Maldonado up first off the bench, which I tried to find some statistics on that, and other times he's done it, but he does it a lot. I've noticed Peter Miller with horses off a layoff, and Edwin gets the horse forward. We've mentioned how he's an aggressive gate jockey. Maybe it's just to get a little fitness into him, get him a good run, and then they switch second time off. Not saying that with any fact to back it up, just from observation. And then going 3-4 in the next leg, although after Gino's point on how be it, I might have to throw in the 8 horse as well, because that is a horse who has the back class certainly to stand up to this field. Might just be, towards the end of his racing career, but he still can hold his own against starter allowance 62.5 company at this point on his best day. And then, ending with the 4 and the 8, 2 horses I believe are going to be forwardly placed. Not a whole lot of pace in there, so I want the horse in front. I want the horse right off. And that'll take me to a $6 ticket. But again, I'm going to play this as many times as my budget will allow. And probably for Matt Miller's sake, because I'm sure he's watching, I'm going to play a 2-5 double as well. So, no.
And Ryan's going to be that guy that you were just referring to earlier, where you're waiting for him at the ticket and he's just punching all these tickets.
As long as I just see his finger moving and he's not thinking, then I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like, he can repeat it as long as he can. If he's still figuring the stuff out, that's when I got a problem. So
I will say there's no worse feeling than being behind somebody in line and they're looking at the form for what looks like the first time.
You're looking over the shoulder. You're looking at the lines next to you. You get that sinking feeling in your stomach. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling, especially if they're when they're going into the gate and you're trying to find a window there. I've had that happen a number of times. My ticket 3, 7, 8 with 2, 4 with 2, 3, 4, 5 with 3, 4 with 2, 5. Yes, I know it's not the smartest thing ever to use the 2 and the 4 equally in the second leg, but I'll probably play a variety of different tickets where I single Nysos, and then I'll probably play one ticket where I'll back up with Smooth Cruising, and then maybe spreading some other legs, use the 8 in the fourth leg. I think that's a good one to use. You made a good case there. Maybe I'll end up using the 8 with Carmouche and Thomas in the last. So I'll still have to figure that things out, but that's kind of the tepid ticket that I have. That's $48. I follow the rules. I go in the middle, and that is going to wrap things up for ticket-wise. So let me go ahead and get the final banner on the screen as we've got one more week of races before we get to the Belmont. Gino, maybe you can go ahead and tell us where we can find some of that great stuff on Daily Racing Form. And hopefully by the time they get on there, it's up and running again.
Yeah, we had a firewall thing that was planned for tonight. And I'm
Okay.
looking, it's funny when you look at those like problems channels and there's people from all over the country like going through and they're like typing away and figuring it out. So
Yeah.
they're working on it right now. And I'm sorry, I was always the guy from the wrong side of the tracks, right? I was always like the badass tough guy that the girls' parents didn't want dating. I know I broke the rules here on the show too, but that's just been me growing up my whole life. You know, I'm such a tough, bad dude here, you know. Exactly. Can't change who you are, you know, can't change it. But shop.drf.com is the place to go. And we'll have a ton of really great previews on the Daily Racing Forum YouTube. And that stuff's all free. So like for next week, we'll have all the big stakes races looked at. David Aragona, Mike Beer, Ashley Mayu, they're part of the team. And we're all kind of mixed up in the different videos. We'll have pick 5 strategy stuff for you too. So if you need a little extra help, head on over there and we'll get you all ready for a big Belmont week next week.
Yeah, I think Ryan and I are hoping to maybe get David Ayer going on next week because it's a big week of races in New York. And even though this is a West Coast show, sometimes we break the rules ourselves. And we're going to be covering, I believe they got a New York bred day on a Wednesday where they got some really good races Ryan's been telling me about. So looking forward to that.
New York Showcase.
Get him on. But Ryan, you've got the final word. Where can we find you this week? And more importantly, next week?
Yeah, this week, I'll see if Jackson's back from sitting in his car / doing work to join me tomorrow morning for an episode of Get Bucks. So stay tuned on that. But either way, Thursday, we'll be back with Big Hoof Energy, myself, Jackson, Kaylee. We'll go over one of this week's sequences, likely the one at Churchill Downs, because we have some good races with the Arlington Stakes, the Blame Stakes, and some others going down out in Louisville. And then Saturday, the Saturday show rolls on. Noah, hope to see you there. It'll be myself. It'll be Jackson. It'll be a plethora of other guests. Gino, if you have nothing going on Saturday, you're free to swing on by. And then Belmont Stakes Week. It's going to be show after show, both on HHH. And then we might even have maybe 3 straight days of live shows on ABR doing a Saturday show type special because between New York Showcase Day, the day before the Belmont Stakes, and of course on Belmont Stakes Day, there are just days of racing. Might have to take one of those days off, but maybe not. Maybe we'll go 4 straight. But either way, love the racing festival in Saratoga. They do such a good job every year since Belmont's been under renovation. So I look forward to it.
If you're going to play all those race days next week, I think you got to build your bankroll with this late pick 5 that we talked about, late pick 5 Saturday at Santa Anita. Gino, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can get you on a third time. I always love having you on the show. And hopefully we can do that sooner than possible.
Anytime you guys need, I'm here. Just bring in the righty, like you said, or call out the bat signal. So I'm Batman. I guess I'll give myself Batman. Yeah.
I'll give you a little finger wave when Jackson can't make it, or even if he does. That's going to wrap things up for us. For our guest, Gino Buccola, and my co-host, Ryan Anderson. This has been your host, Noah Meagher, and episode 31 of Pacific Horseplayers, again covering the Santa Anita Late Pick 5. And until next time, PHP out.